Today, I'm going to show you not only the strangest thing that happens when you trust the quantum universe, but also how to truly trust, even if right now you're filled with fears, doubts, and beliefs that sabotage your life. Because trust is not just a beautiful idea, it's a real mechanism that quantum physics has already proven. And if you stay with me until the end, you'll discover why letting go of control can transform anxiety into clarity, doubt into power, and fear into real confidence, opening a path for the universe to align your life in a way that seems impossible. I know what it's like to be in that place. You've tried to trust, but it felt like something inside of you wouldn't allow it, as if a background voice kept repeating, "It won't work, you don't deserve it, you'll fail again." This is the invisible prison so many people live in, trying to believe, but being sabotaged by their own fears. And that's why this video is different. Here you'll learn how to trust for real, even with those limiting beliefs. If you feel this resonates, subscribe to the channel now and turn on the bell, because today you'll receive a key that can completely change the way you live your life. Science has already begun to explain what spiritual masters have been saying for centuries. Richard Feynman proved that particles don't follow a single trajectory. They explore all possible routes before deciding which one becomes real. Max Planck discovered that every change in the universe happens in discrete packets of energy, which we call quanta. And Gregg Braden, uniting physics and spirituality, shows how our heart and mind interact with this field of infinite possibilities. Neville Goddard summed it all up in a powerful phrase: "You do not attract what you want, but what you believe to be true." This means trust is not a blind act. It is a spiritual science that reorganizes reality around your consciousness. Many times, life places us at crossroads with no map, no manual, no certainty of what to do. Have you ever been in that moment when, no matter how much you analyzed all the options, none seemed safe? That's when the silent invitation arises. Trust the invisible. But trusting, in this context, doesn't mean closing your eyes naively. It means recognizing that there is a greater intelligence orchestrating variables your rational mind cannot calculate. It's like standing before a fog-covered road and still deciding to take the next step. Only when you move forward does the path begin to reveal itself beneath your feet. Trusting the invisible seems irrational precisely because we've been trained to believe only in what we can see. Since childhood, we've learned to demand proof, guarantees, and statistics before taking action. Yet real life unfolds in invisible layers, woven from probabilities, synchronicities, and seemingly improbable encounters. Think of a situation when you followed only your intuition and everything fell into place better than you could have planned. What seemed like luck was actually the field responding to your act of trust. This is the essence of the mystery. Only those who trust discover that the invisible has always been working in their favor. But there's a paradox. The more we try to control every detail, the less we notice the signs that could guide us. Control creates tension, and tension disconnects us from the subtle perception that reveals the next step. It's like trying to see the moon's reflection in agitated waters. Only when the surface calms does the image appear. The same happens within us. As long as we're trapped in fear, we can't see the solutions the universe has already placed before us. Trusting, therefore, is more than a rational decision. It is a vibrational attitude that changes how you interact with reality. The invisible is not an empty space, but a living field of possibilities. Science calls it the quantum field. Spirituality calls it divine mind. Some masters call it universal consciousness. Regardless of the name, the principle is the same. Trusting means opening yourself to this field and allowing it to show you paths you would never see on your own. That's why miracles seem to happen when we trust. The miracle is not the impossible becoming possible. It's the invisible becoming visible. It's when what already existed in the field manifests, because you allowed it to happen. And perhaps the most beautiful aspect of this mystery is realizing that trust doesn't depend on the absence of fear, but on the courage to move forward despite it. You don't need to eliminate every doubt before taking the next step. You just need to choose not to let them paralyze you. Trust is a leap, but not into the dark. It's a leap into an invisible net that has always been there, waiting to catch you. This is what so many traditions call faith. but what modern physics is beginning to decode as interaction with the quantum field. The mystery of trusting the invisible is exactly this. It only works when you dare to experience it. In classical physics, we learned that an object always follows a single, predictable path. If you throw a stone, it falls along an exact trajectory defined by forces and calculations we can predict with precision. But quantum physics shattered that simple logic. Experiments like the double-slit test proved that subatomic particles, like electrons and photons, don't choose just one path. They simultaneously explore all possibilities before manifesting in one. This means that, at the deepest level of reality, there is not one defined path, but a field of infinite potentials waiting to collapse in response to observation. This phenomenon became even clearer with the work of Richard Feynman, one of the greatest physicists in history. He showed that each particle doesn't travel only from point A to point B as we imagine. In fact, it mathematically traverses every possible path, even those that seem absurd. Paths that move backward in time, take enormous detours, or cross improbable distances. What we see as linear movement is, in reality, the result of an infinite dance of probabilities that cancel and reinforce each other until only the visible trajectory remains. Now imagine applying this understanding to your life. When you look at the future, you often believe there's only one road, one chance, one correct answer. But just like particles, your consciousness is also immersed in a field where all paths coexist. What you call destiny is not fixed. It is a spectrum of probabilities waiting for your vibrational decision. When you insist on control, you reduce the options and limit the route. But when you trust, you allow the field to select the best trajectory among infinite possibilities already in existence. What's most intriguing is that science itself confirms that the reality we perceive is only a fragment of this vast network of paths. The collapse of the wave function, the moment when possibilities become a concrete fact, happens in response to observation, or in other words, to consciousness. This suggests your life is not a fixed track, but a sea of potentials that responds to your inner state. If you vibrate fear, you collapse versions of reality that reflect that fear. If you vibrate trust, the field organizes to align synchronicities and improbable routes in your favor. That's why trust is not just an emotional act, but a decision that alters how reality manifests. Quantum physics shows us that everything is happening along infinite paths simultaneously. What you experience is merely the reflection of what you choose to vibrate. Trust, therefore, is making space for the universe to collapse higher versions of your life, versions you wouldn't dare imagine on your own. When you understand this, you realize there is no such thing as chance. There is vibrational response. And that is the scientific foundation of the power of trust. Quantum physics describes reality as a vast field of probabilities. Before being observed, every electron, every photon exists in a state called superposition, where multiple futures coexist simultaneously. This means that, at its deepest level, the universe is not solid but fluid, plastic, malleable, like an ocean of potentials waiting to be shaped. This field is the invisible source from which everything emerges. It's no exaggeration to say that every moment of your life is born from this quantum space, and the way you interact with it determines which of the infinite versions of reality becomes visible to you. Seth called this space the basic framework of consciousness. For him, every thought, every emotion, every inner image was already coded in this field and could become physical experience. Neville Goddard said something similar, but in poetic language. Imagination is Christ himself in action. For Neville, imagining with confidence was directly accessing the creative field that sustains life. Joe Dispenza, in turn, translates this in scientific terms. The quantum field is the invisible matrix where all possibilities already exist, and a coherent heart is the key that opens access to it. 3 different languages, one truth. You live immersed in a field of infinite futures. But here's the detail few perceive. You don't access this field only when you meditate or pray. You access it every second because your consciousness is constantly interacting with it. The question is, how are you interacting? If you live in the frequency of fear, you collapse versions of reality that reinforce that fear. If you vibrate in trust, you open space for the field to deliver higher versions of your life. The field is neutral. It doesn't judge. It doesn't decide for you. It simply responds to your internal vibration like a mirror. That's why trust becomes such a powerful creative act. Many people believe trust means waiting for the universe to do something for them. But true trust is different. It is aligning with the field and allowing what already exists as possibility to manifest. When you imagine a scenario clearly and feel gratitude in advance for it, you are literally sending the field a vibrational signature that reorganizes probabilities. Then the so-called coincidences begin to happen. The right people appear, opportunities align, answers emerge. What once seemed improbable is simply the field adjusting to your new state of being. And here is the revelation that changes everything. The field of all possibilities is not outside of you. It is you. Your consciousness is an inseparable part of this creative matrix. When Seth said you create your own reality, he wasn't speaking metaphorically. He was describing a universal law. When Neville spoke about living in the end desired, he was teaching how to tune into a specific version of the field. And when Dispenza speaks about heart coherence, he reveals the practical mechanism to access this power. The universe is a living field, and trust is the password that unlocks access to the highest versions of your existence. From an early age, we're conditioned to believe that the more control we have, the more security we gain. We plan every detail, try to predict every risk, monitor results, as if life were a predictable mathematical equation. But reality keeps showing us that it's not like that. The more you try to control, the more resistance you encounter. It's like holding sand in your hands. The tighter you squeeze, the faster it slips away. The paradox is that true power is not in control, but in release. And that is exactly where trust transforms into a creative force. When you let go, you're not giving up on life or crossing your arms. You're acknowledging that there is a greater intelligence capable of seeing paths you'd never find on your own. It's like a river naturally finding the most efficient route to the sea, without calculation. Physics explains this through the principle of least action. Light, for example, always finds the fastest path between 2 points, effortlessly. The same happens with your life. When you trust, the universe arranges invisible elements so you can travel the path of least resistance to your destiny. But why is it so hard to let go? Because we were programmed to believe that control equals safety. Our destructive beliefs whisper, if you don't control, you'll lose everything. But that is the great illusion. Control is just fear disguised. It doesn't prevent falls, it only prevents flight. When you let go, you discover the universe is not a chaotic enemy, but a silent ally. And the more you release, the more you realize you'd been wasting energy trying to hold on to a life that could flow naturally if you simply trusted. Neville Goddard said that resting in the feeling of the wish fulfilled was the greatest act of faith. Joe Dispenza teaches that coherence between heart and mind is the state where we release the past and open space for the future. Seth reminded us that we don't need to manipulate reality, but to allow our consciousness to express it. All converge on the same truth. Letting go is not abandonment, it is alignment. It is leaving the prison of fear to enter the flow of trust. This is the strange power that silently, yet relentlessly, transforms destinies. And perhaps the most extraordinary thing is realizing that when you let go, life accelerates. Doors that were locked open, unexpected solutions appear, the right people show up. What seemed impossible begins to happen naturally. Because when you're no longer blocking with tension, the field can work freely. Life doesn't need your struggle. It needs your permission. And trust is exactly that. The permission that gives the universe the freedom to do what was already prepared for you. It's strange to think that true control is born the moment you decide to release, but that is the key to the mystery. By now, you've understood that trusting the universe is not just a beautiful phrase, but a real mechanism that organizes your reality. The big question is, how to apply this in daily life, even with beliefs that sabotage you. The answer is simple and can be summed up in a practical formula. Recognize, feel, release, trust, and give thanks. This is the path that transforms anxiety into clarity and opens the door to the universe's flow. Let's break down each step, because when you put this into practice, life begins to respond in ways that seem miraculous. The first step is recognize. Recognize when you're trying to control too much, when fear or doubt are dictating your choices. This requires awareness, because often we live on autopilot. Ask yourself, is this decision being guided by trust or by fear? Just by bringing light to this question, you begin to weaken the beliefs that sabotage you. Recognition is like turning on a flashlight in the dark. You don't need to chase away the darkness. Just see where it is. The second step is feel. This is where vibrational alignment comes in. Close your eyes, breathe deeply, and imagine the result you desire, as if it were already real. Don't just visualize, feel in your body the joy, peace, or gratitude you'd have if you were already living it. Science calls this heart-brain coherence. Spirituality calls it living faith. This feeling sends a clear signature to the quantum field, which begins reorganizing probabilities in your favor. The more you feel it, the more the field responds. The third step is release and trust. After recognizing and feeling, it's time to let go of the outcome. This means acting on what's within your reach, but not clinging to the how and when. The universe knows paths you could never calculate. Just as light finds the fastest path, life also finds the perfect flow when you allow it. Releasing is stopping the constant checking if it's working. Trusting is keeping the silent certainty that it's already done, even without immediate evidence. This is where many fail, but it's also where the magic happens. The fourth and final step is give thanks. Gratitude is the vibrational language of trust. By thanking in advance, you prove to the field that you already believe in the outcome. This dissolves doubt and accelerates manifestation. Try writing every day. I am grateful because the universe is already aligning what is best for me. Make it a habit. Gratitude not only strengthens trust, it also opens your eyes to notice the synchronicities and signs that confirm you're in the flow. That way, every step becomes lighter, because you no longer walk alone. You walk with the universe itself. Now you know, something truly strange happens when you trust the quantum universe. Trust is not theory. It's a real mechanism that transforms fear into clarity and opens invisible paths. If this message spoke to you, write in the comments, I choose to trust the universe. Like, share, and subscribe now so you don't miss the next video, where I'll reveal something even deeper. How your mind may be imprisoning realities without you realizing it, and how to free yourself from this forever.